Thanks everyone for joining today. This is a webinar organized by Going to Seed. We're really excited to welcome some folks from Snake River Seed Cooperative today. We're just kind of having a nice informal conversation and some Q&A. And we have Casey O'Leary, who is a farmer organizer and one of the founders of Snake River Seed Cooperative, and also a farmer at Earthly Delights Farm. We also have Kelly Kingsland with Affinity Farm, and we might have an appearance from James Loomis of Wasatch Community Gardens and Green Phoenix Farm. Thanks so much for our guests for being here. I'm just going to give it to Casey for a moment, and if you want to introduce yourself any further, and you could say anything about the farm and then introduce the cooperative.
Sure. Hi, everybody. We actually have a couple other of our co-op growers on this. We've got Wayne, and then I think I saw Melissa from 10 Bluebird Acres. So we've got a couple folks who are also co-op growers here with us. So hi to you guys too. And there's Dora. There's another one. Yeah, we got a few co-op growers with us, which is awesome. So let's see. Farm is called Earthly Delights Farm, and it's an old urban farm in Boise. I don't farm as much as I used to. I grow seeds on a smaller scale now, but I've farmed for about 20 years, and the typical market garden stuff, mostly fresh veg, and then I got into seeds pretty early on, and then over my farming career, that the seeds just took more and more of my acreage, small acreage, like 1 acre, but they took over more and more of my acre over time. And now I just grow on a small scale for the co-op because I am running the co-op and it takes a lot of time. We started as a seed library, actually. I saw Rebecca from Richmond Grows definitely take inspiration from me all over there. So we started as a seed library in 2012. And the idea there was to just try to share seeds and get more seeds into more hands, and we were not getting a huge amount of participation. We had strict guidelines. And so people had to, we really pushed the idea that you had to return seed to the library, which is not the way that a lot of seed libraries operate. We were really strict on that. And as a result, we didn't get a lot of participation. I think people were just scared about that obligation, that responsibility. And so in 2014, we actually shifted into a seed producers cooperative model, not a legal co-op yet, but we just started using capitalism, the thing that we all understand. Like, you give me a packet of seeds, I give you money, and we have no more that we have to do with each other. That is much more well understood. And so we actually found that by switching to that model, we started to be able to get a lot more seed being grown in our area because we were able to pay farmers to grow seeds for the co-op. And then we had a lot more people that were participating, choosing locally grown seeds because they understood how to pay for them and not have to grow them and return them. So we started that in 2014. And then I started with just the seeds that I was growing on my own co-op. At that point, I was stewarding about 100 varieties of seeds, and I just put those in. And then I started cajoling other growers in my area to grow seeds as well, to add seed production to existing small farms that they already had. And one of those, a couple of years into it, was Kelly. So I'm glad to have Kelly's been with us for a really long time. Through that time, we've been kind of cranking along like that. And then in the the winter, like I guess January 1st, 2022, we transitioned into an actual legal cooperative. So we are now a full-fledged worker and farmer owned cooperative. That's a really rare model. It's one of the only ones in the country. It's definitely the only one in Idaho. But yeah, it's a cool model. So we have farmers who are owners of the co-op, and we also have employees who are owners of the co-op. And collectively, there's 33 of us who grow seeds for the co-op on the farming side. Of those 33, I think we have 11 of us who are owners. And we are, and so there's 11 growers that are owners, and we have 4 employees that are owners. And then we collectively steward about 400. We currently steward 402 unique varieties of seeds, which are at this moment adapting to the rugged conditions of the Intermountain West. We're all here in the Intermountain West. We have growers as far south as like Utah, Colorado, but all the way up into northern Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, Oregon, Washington is kind of our range. Let's see, what else is that? How do you feel about that,
That
Spencer? Is that a
amazing.
good intro?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's wonderful overview. I'll give Kelly a chance to jump in, introduce yourself, and maybe some of your roles in the cooperative.
Hey everyone, this is Kelly. So I started growing seeds for the co-op in 2017. Prior to that, my partner Russell and I just did vegetable growing. We had a CSA and served the local markets and wholesale stuff since 2002. And I also serve on the board of directors of the co-op, and I guess I was on the steering committee when Casey took it from the enterprise that it was into a legal co-op. I was a part of that. So yeah, it's fun to be here and see all of your faces.
Great, thanks. Well, I can get into some of my questions, and then towards the end, we'll open it up to other people jumping in. Yeah, so I was hoping you could just talk a little bit about the primary vision or, uniting goal for the cooperative. I know there's a lot of moving pieces, but what is the main core idea that keeps it all together?
Yeah, thank you for asking. I always like to start with the why we're all doing this for sure. Our mission is to grow a robust regional seed shed for the Intermountain West. So what that means to us is it means that we have a supported network of farmers who are skilling up to steward these seeds for the long term, not just like grow them and save them one time, but keep ample population sizes, do really good isolation, roguing, selection, introduce new varieties, trial new varieties, improve varieties on the farm. So so we focus on creating that supportive network of growers, and then we do that by supporting those growers. So we producer driven economic models. We have 5 core values, which I don't know if you want to get into that right yet, but one of them is producer driven economic models. And what that means to us is that the farmers are in charge of what they grow, and they also help to set the prices for what they grow so that those prices fit what it actually takes to produce the crop. So that's our main goal on the producer side. And then on the consumer side, we're working on just developing a network of folks who understand the importance of a local or a regional seed shed, and why it matters that seeds come from the place where you live, or from a place in particular that is specific. And what does it mean to a local economy and a local food system? If we do not have local seeds, we do not have a local food system. So that's a core driving factor of what we do, as well as just try to re-regionalize the use of locally grown seeds as well. Yeah, and we like to help folks save their own seeds, skill up in saving their own seeds too. I was teaching a seed saving workshop the other day at a local nursery, and this woman in the front row was like, well, I don't understand, if you own a seed company, why you would want to teach us all how to save our own seeds. And I was like, yeah, that's a good point, huh? I guess if we did our best job we could ever do, we would put ourselves out of business.
We have sort of a rough slogan that says the more hands that hold the seeds, the safer they are. And that definitely drives a lot of our thinking.
Nice. You mentioned a little bit, but could you say a little bit more about how the cooperative came to be originally, like how many people were involved in that process, and then how it changed over time, especially as you became a legal cooperative entity, and just how that has changed things over time?
Hmm. Um, I, I don't remember exactly how many people I cajoled the first year into doing this. Maybe it was like, there was maybe like 4 of us, maybe, the first year that grew seeds, for the co-op. And then yeah, and then just little by little folks got added in there. But I think, like, where it got interesting, in my opinion, I mean, I always tried to run it with some sort of collective decision making, but collective decision making is very different than starting a legal cooperative, as we learned. And so the process of doing that was, let's see, how many of us were there, Kelly? Was there 6 of us who were working on that?
6. I think so.
Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, we have, luckily for us, we happen to have one of our co-op growers also happens to be an attorney, and she also happens to be an attorney who is doing a fellowship with the Sustainable Economies Law Institute. So she's very focused on what does it look like to build these alternative healthy sustainable economies models, and so cooperatives certainly fall into that. And so we worked really closely with her, and it was really quite delightful. It like we kind of did a lot of unorthodox things in putting together our organization. There were things that were a surprise. I mean, for example, one of the things is like when we were settling on like a sale price for the business, we treated the seeds as a gift. Like I didn't own, like we don't really like the idea of ownership of seeds, and so we see the seeds as having gifted us with the opportunity to do the work, and so we didn't include the seeds in the purchase price or whatever of the business. That actually became weird because the IRS didn't see it that way. And if only we would have known. If anyone else is going to form a legal cooperative and you see seeds as precious gifts, which are sacred to the earth and cannot be bought and sold in that way, please talk to me before you make business decisions, because there is a way that you can do that would not bite you in the ass like it did us. But yeah, and I mean, I know it's weird because we sell packets of seeds, but the way we look at it is the seeds themselves are a gift. What people are paying for when they pay us is they are paying us for the labor that goes into doing the work and for the packets themselves and shipping them all over and stuff like that. But anyway, so yeah, the actual process of transitioning was a steering committee who led us through that, formed our incorporation documents. We talked through all the things. Kelsey was really good about, what's all going to go wrong. And then we formed an initial board of directors and moved on.
Awesome. Could you say a little bit about how, well, I was going to say, I love that you had a lawyer or legal expert on the team, and, that's kind of a testament to cooperative and just a community and sourcing multiple different skills from your team. So that's good to hear. And I was just wondering if you could say a little bit about, how did you all go about adding more people into the cooperative over time, or how do you ongoing handle membership or collaboration?
Maybe I can talk about the membership, Kelly, and do you want to talk about like the actual like seed rodeo and the variety selection, like how the crop assignments were? So
Sure.
so membership wise, we had at the time, so just because of FCC regulation, I don't know, some federal agency entity has regulations about shares and how many shares you can offer at a certain time before you unlock a different level of corporatedom that is scary and requires a lot more paperwork. So we were able to add all of our workers who wanted to become owners to right out the gate. But with the growers, we had to only add 10 a year as option, give 10 a year share offers, and add 10 a year. So it took us 3 years to get through all of the growers that we had in the co-op who were eligible to become owners. And so we had to add those guys slowly over time. And then as far as like how we decide on new growers, it depends on our inventory of seeds and how we feel like, do we feel like our current co-op network can collectively produce all the seeds that we need for a given year. And if we don't think that they can, and or we see other reasons to add new growers because maybe they're in a different part of our region that we haven't gotten to work with, or they have certain isolation that's really useful for seed production or something like that. And so then we will onboard new growers as we have a form on our website that if somebody wants to become a grower, they can fill that out. And we don't always add growers every year, but sometimes we do. And then as far as like how people get to how we decide who's growing what, that's a whole other process, which Kelly, you could totally talk about.
Yeah, so I guess initially the initial group of growers were offered stewardship, what we call stewardship of a crop. We have a primary and a secondary steward of a crop, and they always get the first option. So if you've stewarded a crop, you get the first option to grow it when it needs to be grown. And if there's a little technical layer of if you refuse to grow it 2 times, then you lose that stewardship, or that primary and the secondary steps in and grows it. So as new growers are coming on, they're offered the list of crops that aren't stewarded to take on. And as a steward, you're, selecting and just maintaining that seed, steering it the direction you'd like it to go, and sort of setting that criteria for if anybody else is growing it, because usually there's a couple of lots. So the first round in the fall, we just don't come through it, is that the seed stewards get offered anything that needs to be grown again for the next year gets offered up, and the stewards accept that or don't accept that. And then what's remaining on that list or anything else there gets offered up as the available crop list. And it's kind of, we call it the seed rodeo because it's kind of rough. It's not, I mean, it's a strange thing. You're like thinking about your farm, thinking about next year, thinking about what you want to grow, and there's all these other people that want to grow it. But it works out. So we get a read-only list of what's available. We get to look at that for a day or two, and then at a certain moment, 9 o'clock in the morning on this day, the list opens, and that's the rodeo. And everybody's on there signing up for crops. And sometimes they disappear out of under your fingers when you're going to sign up for it, but other times not. And there ends up being a little list of things that nobody's signed up for, partially because they're really small lots, or it's a perennial or something that's a little harder to grow and somebody doesn't have experience. But it works out pretty well. I mean, Dora's here. There's a few new growers that are here that I'm looking at their faces as I'm talking. And, in the beginning, the rodeo kind of was a derogatory term because it was a little crazy. I like it better. We've grown seed for Fedco and for Siskiyou seeds. And I like the co-op's version of how you sign up for crops and how seniority gets let out and all as better than those other two companies do. I think as new growers for other seed companies, if we're growing for Fedco, we offer to grow something and they send us a list. And a lot of what's on that list is just, to be frank, kind of junk that is like not worth growing for the price they're offering, and they're not willing to flex on it, or a crop that really doesn't produce very much seed. And you learn this every time. You're like, ooh, let's grow that. And then it's rough. So I think the co-op does a better job of that. And I don't think all the good crops are taken at this point. And I think another thing we've come through over time is that a lot of growers were really interested, and a lot of like home gardeners were interested. And it's turned out that the farmers are sort of the ones that are more successful at growing seed crops, or like in volume, or high germ rates, or following through and finishing the crop or whatever. So I think we're aiming more at incorporating farmers into our group.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because I'm sure there's a lot of different ways to organize it, but it makes sense having a primary and secondary person responsible to simplify. Yeah, just small quantities come in from a bunch of different people with different levels of quality or whatever, different traits even. Yeah, I want to return to some more questions about that crop selection and just the membership, but I think maybe it would be helpful to hear more about the sales and who the seeds are going to. In a conversation before, you had mentioned a lot of wholesales, around 70 wholesale accounts. Maybe you could talk about that.
Sure. Yeah. We currently have around between 70 and 80 wholesale accounts where our seed racks are offered throughout the Intermountain West. And then we also have an online store. So just like through our normal website, we sell seeds, and through our website, we sell seeds in packets, but we also sell bulk seeds. So for folks who are looking for larger quantities, farmers and larger home gardeners, we do have the bulk option. But in the wholesale accounts, we just sell packets on on the shelves, and we kind of have like anywhere from like somebody's got a little tiny rack of like 50 varieties to like they'll have 300 varieties of our stuff.
So, are the bulk sales like a meaningful chunk of the overall sales, or is it pretty much dominated more by the packets?
Um, yeah, we definitely sell a lot more packets than we do bulk. And as far as like the split between like retail or through our online store, we do a little bit of in-person sales like at farmers markets and stuff, but it's pretty small. So our big two drivers are the wholesale and the online store. And wholesale, why I think wholesale is about, I should have the current numbers in front of me, but um I think it's about wholesale is about 65 maybe percent, 65% of our sales, and then the retail is about 40-ish percent.
Okay.
And then oh, you asked something else. I can't remember what's the other part of that.
Do.
Well, anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Oh, the bulk. Yeah, you asked about the bulk. So, here's what I would say is we gotta get farmers to understand why it matters to buy local seeds. That's what I was gonna
Not,
say. Because the thing is, like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I'm sure many of you are farmers. When I go to the farmers market and I look around at what's there, the 99% of what you see at the farmers market on vegetables on people's tables is grown from a seed that's been trucked in from somewhere else. Everybody buys from Fedco and High Mowing and Johnny's, and like that's just where you buy as a market gardener. It's just where you buy. And the idea of that is like, I get it, like there are certain things that make sense. People want pelleted seed or whatever it is for seeders and whatnot, but like there's got to be some parts of people's farm operations where they can be supporting a local seed supply, and we're trying to figure out how to better connect that as to farmers. It's like, this matters. It matters if we're growing our own seeds. It
yeah,
matters.
yeah. I love that. I would like to spend some more time on that because I did have a question later. And yeah, and I can tell you're excited about it. I feel the same way. I'm exploring local seeds in the Portland area, and that's been my experience too, that there seems to be so much interest in packets and packet sales, and there's so many small farmers in the Portland area, and each of them are spending probably thousands of dollars each season for mostly going to Johnny's or Territorial. And from what I can tell, I know Julia was loosely surveying local farmers in the area about where do you get your seeds from, and yeah, most people are still getting from Johnny's. And I just see that as regardless of everything else, that's just such a potential market to tap into. If the small farm, it's almost a new industry these days. If they would buy into local seeds, that would be a huge difference maker for the seed growing industry.
Well, and it's interesting. It didn't strike us for a long time. Russell and I farming away. We've supported ourselves for 25 years growing vegetables, and there's some pride in that. And then we met Casey, and we're like, whoa, we've been doing like half this thing. Like we like export externality of the seed, and then we come in and we do this great thing. And like it is great. It's amazing. It's really good. And also, that's half of it. And when you ignore the other half, as Casey says, if you don't have local seeds, you don't have a local food system. And we, as farmers, are really wanting to participate in that local feed system and having an effect on it. And yet we sort of ignore that part. It's not a criticism. We ignored it ourselves until we saw the light, or realized that we'd been ignoring it. And I don't know how to get other farmers. Like I have conversations with other farmers all the time, and it's always, well, if you had pelleted carrots, I would do it. If you had, like, there's always these reasons because of their system that doesn't allow them to incorporate raw seeds into their system. But yeah, how do we do that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Well, could you say a little bit more about, I find that it's not the whole battle, but some of it is the educational component of actually explaining or understanding why it matters and why local seeds are a better choice than Johnny's. So do you want to just explain that for the audience?
Well, I mean, I don't want to say that they're always a better choice than somewhere else, first off,
Yeah.
but I think that a diversity of strategies is a great way to think about it. But I mean, so one of my mentors, Bill McDormand, he likes to say, when you plant a seed, you plant the entire agricultural system that produced that seed. So if you are buying, I mean, Johnny's is, as far as seed companies go, they are a reputable, larger seed company, right? So they are more reputable than many. So I don't want to just pick on Johnny's.
Yeah.
Just because it's the market farmer,
Yeah.
world.
Those two.
But so basically, they're sourcing seeds from all over the world. They're not very transparent about where those seeds come from. You don't actually know who's growing them. You don't know what part of the world they were grown in. You don't know the working conditions under which they were grown. You don't have, I mean, you can buy certified organic seeds, in which case at least something about the environmental practices that went on there. But you don't know anything about the story behind it, the stewardship behind it. And I think that the thing that we're trying to do is say, look, these seeds are an integral part of a whole agricultural system. And so if you can plant the seed of, like, if you plant a Snake River Seed Co-op seed, you are planting something that is so friggin' radical. Like, it is not business as usual. It's the opposite of business as usual. Like, we don't source seeds from wherever. We only source them from our region. So, like, we don't have, we can't just phone up the supplier when we run out of them or whatever. And we're paying our growers a living wage. And we have a super high level of adherence to our values that we do not budge from. We have, and I feel like I should say, like, this is one of the differences. Our values are sacred relationship with the earth, producer-driven economic models, seed sovereignty, anti-racism, and local economies. And we talk about those 5 values all the time. And everything we do, we run through these values and I'm not saying we always come out on, like, we're never in conflict with them. We're often in conflict with them, but they are front and center in what we are doing. Like, we are trying to create a completely different model for doing business. And that has to do with the cooperative structure, with shared ownership, with respect for producers, and then the seeds themselves. Obviously, we're now learning so much, like, collectively, right, about epigenetics and the ways that seeds adapt to the places that they live, right? So if you're growing a seed in a harsh, rugged environment, that seed is doing, I mean, like, it does it, like, even to the level where if you grow a seed in a place where it experiences drought, that seed will put out more roots in that area to try, more finer roots to try to get a hold of more water. And then it will pass that information on to its offspring. And then when you plant that offspring, that new seed will then immediately start making more roots, just because it knows that that's probably a good move, right? So, like, another thing that Bill likes to say is, every time you bring in a seed from, like, who knows where, you're starting over. It doesn't know your place yet. And I mean, so anyway, there's lots there, but
That's great. That's wonderful. I love it. I love it. Can I prod you on your soapbox one more in that vein?
Oh, please.
You had mentioned before the seed entity called Fairy Morse, and I felt like that was a name that I just don't hear as much as maybe I should. So can you explain what that's all about in your understanding?
Oh, well, I think we were just talking about it because Fairy Morse is an old garden seed company. And we were recently just talking with a potential new wholesale account, and they were mentioning that they sourced seeds, they stock seeds from Fairy Morse Seed Company. That's one of their partners that they have on their shelves in their stores. And then they also have Livingston Seeds on their shelves. And those 2 seed companies are owned by the same company. So it's like they have these 2 separate racks of seeds hanging out next to each other, like they're different, but they're not. They're owned by the same parent company. And a lot of times what happens is these bigger companies will basically, they'll have this, like, a big vat of seeds, you know, and it'll just be like you roll up one company's packets to the automated seed packer, and you pack the seeds into that one, and then you put the other seed company's packets in, and like, yeah. So I mean, there's a big difference between what we're doing, because we're literally sitting there with little little spoons and packing seeds into packets. So that's a big difference. But I mean, like that whole thing, you know, I don't know if you guys remember Peppergate. I've been talking about just Peppergate. It's so great. Like that was, you know, years ago. It was like 2023, right? When
I think so.
yeah, when like, you know, when there was a mix up in this one, you know, like it was at one of these big seed suppliers where the wrong, you know, the wrong variety got put into the wrong packets, and like all different companies all over the country, everyone's like, oh, I thought I was growing jalapenos and they're actually banana peppers or whatever it is. And this happened like, you know, and it was like, that's the centralized seed system for you, right? But we have the illusion of choice because there's all these different brands out there, these different packets. It's like, you really have to know. We actually were having this conversation today in our collective meeting today, where we were doing a values check-in, and one of our coworkers was saying that he was at a Thanksgiving conversation with a family member who was insisting that all seeds are grown in China, and that there's no way that we're growing seeds in our area. And I mean, this is what we're talking about. Like, like we have become like the idea that we have that we believe we have to outsource the basic way that we grow food to feed ourselves is insane. Like, we don't have to do that.
That's great. Kelly, you want to jump in?
I think it made me think of Peppergate, and just, I think that was our realization about how like global the seed business is. But also, I think for us, like when I go back to thinking about us farming and not growing seeds, it's the skills to grow those seeds, to understand how it, like, we didn't know how you would get a seed, right? Like, we did all these varieties we've been growing forever. We didn't know how to finish that and get a seed from it, how to get a good quality seed, not, you know, watching a plant go to seed, but actually to come up with a germ rate of 95% or over. And like, you know, I think the more people that know that, like, we are all skilled farmers, but the more people we know that know how to do that, the better off we're going to be as a society. And we've given that away. We, you know, passed it off to people in other places that we don't know.
I love that point, especially. I really think that gets at the heart of so many of the issues that our collective seed organizations are working on, which is that seed work has basically become a specialized skill set, or a really small niche expert industry, when it should really belong to all those people who grow food. It's really just a part of that process, and not some gatekeeping little endeavor for specialists. So,
Yeah, and it's like scary. I think farmer friends of mine, when we say we're growing seeds, they're like, whoa, that's like science, you
yeah,
know? And I'm like, no, this is just the other half of the circle that you do. Like, they're very skilled growers who are intimidated by growing seeds.
yeah,
Well,
yes, yeah, yeah. Could we speak to that a little bit more? Because I think that's the hesitation a lot of people I talk to have is, you know, I think Bill McDormand actually talks about it too. The fear of messing it up, or how technical it maybe should be or shouldn't be, and just the rule book associated with conventional seed saving.
yeah, I mean, to be clear, it was a deliberate attempt on the part of seed companies and seed people who wish to own seeds, to make it seem like it was out of the reach, that it was too hard for the average person. There has been a lot of propaganda over like 100 years, where that's what we're, you know, that is what we are fighting against. That is what we are up against. And I so there's that part of it. And I definitely still, like, I still feel like that sometimes, you know. Um like, no way can my seeds be as good as real seeds. But really, at the other end of that is that yeah, I love that. I'm like, I'll be like, no, like, the real seeds come like from the, you know, from the packet that you bought from somewhere else or whatever. But the other side of that is that it is so freaking miraculous that you really do think like there's no way that this can work. like, there's no way. Like, because it's such a miracle. And like that is one of the best parts about it. It's like, that's the thing. That's the magic of it. It's like, it is so amazing that when you do it, you're like, there's no way. This is incredible. It's like one of them will make 1,000 of them or 10,000 of them. It's like, well, you can't make that up.
Absolutely.
Any seed variety we take on to grow, there's a learning curve. And for us, having grown vegetables for so long, it feels comfortable and good to be in that learning space where, you know, you're looking at a crop maturing and you're like, whoa, I don't know how what are we going to do here? And now over time it's become a lot more easy and we sort of know, but you know, how to get it clean, how to get a good germ rate on it, how to like know when to harvest it, keep it from shit. Like there's all these skills that are really important that we all, not all, but many of us hold.
Yeah. So it sounds like, and I'm guessing that most of your seed growers are also, you know, food growers. Could you talk a little bit about that? And yeah, go ahead.
Mm.
Yeah, I
Or
think for us, when Casey first started talking about when she was trying to convince us to grow seeds, we met her at a seed school. We were just sort of interested, and she's like, "You guys should grow seeds." Our first response was like, "Oh, it would never work in an annual, you know, crop rotation. Like, oh, we couldn't figure it out." And so we started with some easy things like lettuce or tomatoes, or you know, annual crops that don't need their selfers, so they don't need a lot of isolation. Um, it works fine. You know, it's part of our rotations, and you know, it takes a little bit of thinking every year to sort of fit our crops in with our seed crops, or you know, veg crops in with our seed crops, but it's totally doable. And somehow that was another barrier to our thinking about growing seeds, is that we didn't think we, you know, oh no, we're vegetable farmers, we can't grow seeds. And yeah, it just takes a little thinking and a little work, and some alternating different crops, different years. And yeah, I don't know what Casey has to say about that.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the other thing that sometimes vegetable producers forget is that you can involve your markets in seed saving or in seed production. There's lots of different kind of crossovers or niches. I mean, I famously make my CSA members clean watermelon seeds. Like I, you know, like would send them home with watermelon and say, you cannot get another watermelon until you bring me back seeds. And I make them do the whole thing, decant them, everything. I mean, the whole process. And like they loved it, you know. And certainly the varieties that the variety that I was stewarding through that like very messy kind of outward process of like involving a lot of CSA members, you know, over time that variety got a little less true to type and stuff, because who knows, somebody had another watermelon at home and they forgot which one was from the seed co-op and which one, you know, whatever, who knows what's going on there. But like seed saving can be an invitation to connect people with your markets. I mean, I was just talking to another one of our growers who is also a co-op employee, and she was saying that she grew a popcorn crop last year and the co-op only needed a certain amount of seed, but she had to grow a big enough population, so she just sold the popcorn at her farmer's market booth, you know. So there's a lot of opportunities there to actually add and to have crops that nobody else really has at market. Like there's niche opportunities there too, not just, you know, it doesn't just, yeah. And also like it's kind of nice to have a guaranteed buyer for something that you're growing, you know. Like on the vegetable production side of things, that is hard to, you know, I mean CSA obviously, but if you're, you know, if you don't want to grow 100 or 200 different varieties of stuff, like, you know, you're dealing with restaurants which are flaky, and you're dealing with wholesale, you know, which doesn't pay super well. So yeah, it's kind of nice to have an extra niche.
how often will you drop a variety, or how do you determine if something just doesn't seem to be in demand?
Yeah, I don't know. We don't know. We don't know how to do that well. Yeah. Because like every seed has somebody who loves them, right? And so like there are certain varieties that like, you know, for the most part nobody wants, but there's like a few people who really want it and really love it. And so it's really hard to make that decision. And our model lends itself to the, because of the stewardship, it makes a difference, the stewardship thing. It's like nobody wants the variety that they're stewarding to be dropped, because then they're not so yeah, it does make it hard.
But we do have a couple of really, really good data crunchers that work for the co-op, and really good. And we have a lot of support that way, and we know who how much of anything is selling at any given moment. And things do drop. Sometimes we're like, how many tomatoes do we have? I don't know how many tomatoes we have, 50, 60, I don't know how many varieties, but probably too many.
Yeah. And then the other thing I was going to say is sometimes we just drop varieties because enough growers try to grow them and they really just don't produce. Like, there are plants that we love, that people love and would love to buy, but the seed production is really difficult. And if we don't have a grower who can reliably make that work in their model, then we'll drop a variety because of that. A lot of the native plants that we worked with fall into that category where it's like we love them and we want native plants to be a part of our offerings. And like, if we can't find somebody who can steward them well, then it just, we don't want the growers to not get paid for their work.
And one way that can be sort of in conflict is minimum population of a variety for genetic health. And the co-op's pretty small. And so sometimes that number of minimum population, like this popcorn example, minimum population of corn plants versus how many the co-op can actually take. And so, yeah, as a grower, you're always sort of trying to balance that too. And sometimes you end up with extra, and maybe we can sell them to Fedco, or maybe we can, do something with them somehow. But that has an effect on who wants to steward what as well.
I know it's probably hard to speak generally, but could you give a sense at all of like what are best sellers, what is like popular in general, or what seems to sell well, what doesn't sell well?
Yeah, I wish, see, this is the kind of data I wish I would have looked up before.
I know.
Let's see. So top 10. Oh yeah, you have it are you in the board hub? Okay, well anyway.
I am in the board. I
think it was in our last, well, I don't know. Yeah. Anyways, okay, so sugar snap pea is always number one. Peas are like carrot. We have a lot of carrots, like scarlet nantes or red courgettes, or those dulcineas that Kelly and Russell steward are so good, and I feel like people ought to get on board with that. They're finding their own. But yeah, a lot of peas, a lot of carrots. Let's see. Interestingly, I think all of our top 10 bestsellers are vegetables. We sell a lot of flowers, but like the vegetables, people still are cranking on them. Like greens, lettuce mix, that kind of thing. Yeah. What was the lettuce that was like number 11 or something? It's like,
there is a
butter
single
crunch or something, a single lettuce variety that was like number 11. We thought that was very impressive. I mean, because there's a lot of different lettuce varieties that we carry, and I mean, what's so special about that one? Like, what is it about that one?
I'm not seeing our.
Anyway, but yeah, those are the basics. Definitely peas are always number one, and carrots. Peas and carrots are usually up there.
Nice. Yeah. Interesting. Okay, you mentioned how important it is maintaining your values in this work, and I was hoping you could talk a little bit more about that. And just what are ways that you feel like sometimes your values come in conflict with operating the business side of things, and how you maintain those values?
Yeah, I mean, every day. You don't have a set of values like that and try to run a business in Idaho and not have some conflicts there. I think the fact that we, as a group of mostly white people, are stewarding a bunch of seeds, selling seeds in a capitalist business model, brings us into conflict with our value of sacred relationship with the earth, as well as with anti-racism. And so like the ways that we approach that are, like on the surface, something like sacred relationship with the earth, it's like if you saw our practices in the office, you would see that like we don't ever let a seed, like we don't throw it away, or like we have a little compost, like all of our germ testing, all the seeds in the germ test are composted and stuff like that. And you know, we care about, like, we source like environmentally friendly packaging and whatever.
We require that growers either certify organic or are using those practices. So nobody's chemical agriculture.
Yeah, and so we honor it in that way, but at the same time, in the conflict with it is this idea that we're like, you know, we're putting seeds in packets and shipping them out via, you know, diesel powered trucks and whatever else. And I mean, it's just, yeah, it's the world that we live in, you know. And I think, like, in terms of, you know, who has the right to own seeds, you know, we have, as descendants of colonizers, we have a lot to answer for there. And so how we approach that, just it's we don't have enough time to get into it, but I guess I would just say that we take it really seriously, and we try really hard to listen to and learn from and respect folks who have more lived experience with this stuff than we do. And yeah, and it's fraught, you know, at its core, it's fraught. But I think that I I I have yet to come up with a better version of it for our time and place, you know. But I think, like I said in the beginning, I think, you know, if we put ourselves out of business, that would, like, by these seeds being in so many hands and so many skilled people who are growing them, that would be pretty sick.
And I think it is fraught, and it's constantly fraught, but I think it feels so good to be working with those things all the time, to be addressing them, to looking at them. And it's not always easy, it's not always comfortable. And we don't always have the answer to how this works, but to be working with a group of people who are trying to do this, trying to do it right, and trying to pay attention and try to address these issues just feels really great. And I'm always just like, keep our value. We got to keep these values. Don't let those go. We're not just a capitalist business with this as window dressing. These drive our decisions.
And so are there like paid roles within the cooperative, and what's like a paid work versus volunteer, and how do you sort of navigate that? I think that's something that a lot of seed growers and farmers struggle with is, you know, unfortunately it's going to just take volunteerism to a large extent to get things done. But it feels like that often leads to other complexities because a lot of people just need a paycheck and don't have the time or energy to volunteer. So how do you all navigate that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I first want to just honor the fact that everybody who is growing for the co-op is running a small farm, which that alone is difficult, and every co-op grower is navigating that balance on their own, you know, with their own individual farms. At the co-op,
yeah, there's not a lot of volunteerism going on.
no.
Exactly. We pay our employees and we pay our growers.
Yep. And so at the co-op pays its employees. We don't work with volunteers at all. We have 7 employees, and the growers all get paid for their seeds, and the folks who serve on the board, we you know, if folks choose to take on additional roles outside of the standard board meetings and doing the due diligence of the board, they may choose to do that as volunteers. But we do, but we pay board members for their time. We pay our growers who are board members for their time. We pay our staff members who serve on the board for their time. Yeah, we don't really have any volunteers to speak of in that way. Occasionally, like if we're doing a seed swap or something, we may, you know, enlist local volunteers to help us, you know, staff that free seed swap or something. But our day-to-day operations, we pay.
Yeah, and one of the conflicts with our values is that we don't, for our employees who are not growers, we struggle to pay them enough to live in Boise, Idaho. And it's always something we're working with, is trying to get their wages up to a living wage. And it's just there's one of those conflicts with our values. We've got local economies and we've got producer-driven economic models, and we've got these workers who are on the lower end of the pay scale.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that. I think it's really important to be addressing the compensation side of things. And to me, that's a lot of the justification for why people are paying that price for the seeds. I think, like Casey said, you're not paying for the seeds, you're paying for the labor associated with getting them to you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to start getting into these chat questions because we have some good comments. So I'm just going to read some out and we can hear about that. Let's see. I might jump around a little bit, but Joseph asks, does your co-op sell or have you sold Grexes? Do customers even know what that is or care? Or do they ever ask about variety packs that aren't isolated distance mandated varieties?
We do have a few. Thank you for asking. It's not, is it our friend Joseph, or
It
is
is.
Okay.
Hi, Joseph.
Joseph.
Yeah, so yes, we do. We have a few we do have a couple Grex varieties. We also have some of Joseph Lofthouse's landrace varieties and other folks who are working on landrace varieties, and we have some of William Schlegel's varieties of tomatoes that are, exerted stigma stuff that he's been working with that he got from Joseph. And yeah, so there is an interest in that. And I would say like we're really interested in it. Like I'm really interested in it. The customers less so, for sure, but I think because I think yeah. So I freaking love it. We have a really cool it's called Advent Gulch. It's a corn that's been grown in our region for a long time. And yeah, the guy who stewarded that corn, his name is Mike O'Brien. He's like he mixed a bunch of different corns together, and just I don't know, so there's a lot of variation in that. And I love that. I love those kinds of things. Yeah, it's fun.
Kind of a related question is Camila's here in the chat. Hi, Camila. Does the co-op think about producing or selling hybrids?
Yeah, no, we only carry open pollinated seeds. It's really important to us that the seeds don't become proprietary. And the thing about hybrids is that they are inherently proprietary because the company who breeds them has to keep those inbred parent lines. So you always have to buy that seed from that company every year. So we're really committed to and one of our mentors, John Navazio, who just passed away, he's really famous for saying that that it's not that hybrids are not inherently better producers than open pollinated varieties. It's just that the level of investment in these open pollinated varieties has been so much less over time because of the proprietary nature of hybrids. And so we're really focused on freewheeling, wild, sex having seed varieties.
Nice.
Yeah, and at the same time, we don't really have money in our budget to pay breeders to develop something for the future. And that, it's something that we struggle with and something we think about. But at this point, growers are growing seeds that are sold at the co-op, and there's not a lot of room for growing a seed that doesn't have a market. So we're not doing much any breeding to speak of.
Except for on-farm crop improvement, which I think
Yes.
it's kind of on
Right.
that line of breeding,
Yeah.
where
Yeah,
folks
we're
are selecting.
selecting. Yeah. Yeah.
And there's a little, like, we've got a pepper breeding project that's been going
Yeah.
on for a while, for a few years, and so there's little bits of stuff.
There's a little bit, but there's not really money for it. Like it's not, because the growers are getting paid and the workers are getting paid and everything is supposedly making money in our little capitalist enterprise.
Yeah.
Nice. I'm just going to mention a few comments here before a couple more questions. Yeah, just lots of messages of support here. Camila was saying maybe, a lot of farmers are looking for like hybrid varieties for their market production. Let's see. Lindsay says, I feel like local seeds are becoming very sought out in our area, especially with regenerative farming becoming more and more common, increasing demand for local seeds.
Glad to hear it.
Dieng, I think, says, any chance of convincing Johnny's to offer Snake River Seeds, marketing it as a line of local sustainable seed? What do you think about that?
I guess I would be curious to understand what value that would have to us
Sure.
or to them really, but like why would we do that if I mean
Your
some
paycheck.
of our growers do grow for John, like some of our growers do also grow seeds and sell them to Johnny's. Although at this point Johnny's has gotten so big that most of our growers are not able to supply a volume that they could that they could carry. But
I think probably some of it is just the idea of contract growing, and anyone who is interested in growing seeds, it feels overwhelming. And so the easiest idea is just, oh, how can I grow one thing out and just be done? And Johnny's makes it easier, or some of these other bigger companies make it easier to do something like that. Like I know for a while, Baker Creek, it was pretty easy to just do some grow outs, but go through more of these here. Jan says our seed library, Fidalgo Seed Share, grew landrace squash and gave them to locals to clean and return seed in exchange for keeping the fruit. More people.
Kelly, do you guys do that with? Were you? I feel like it was you were one of the growers who was doing that with the local restaurant for a while. You were selling squash to a restaurant and having them give you back the seed. Am I remembering that right?
We would take the seed and take the empty hulls to a restaurant. Yeah, which is cool. I mean, we do that every year. If we have a squash crop that we're growing for seed, we'll get in contact with the restaurant and see if they can use it. Give it to them for cheap, but it it supplements the seed crop price.
Lindsay also asks, have you guys looked into getting a specialty crop grant for Snake River seeds?
Thank you, Lindsay. Yeah, we have had a couple of different specialty crop block grants. We just finished up the second one that we've had. Yeah, and they've been very helpful. They're extremely useful.
Awesome. Linda says the beet Grex grew really well for me and very fun.
Yay. Yeah, that three root Grex beet is really fun. If you're interested in seeing some wild beet combos, that's a really fun one to grow.
Nice. Oops. Let's see. Joseph says, I got my William tomatoes, which I've been working with, saving for 3 years from your seed rack up in Priest River.
Yeah.
I also found that exact corn packet you just spoke to, and I was looking over my corn heap. Love it.
Oh yeah, the Advent Gulch, cool! Yay!
Nice.
I love that corn so much. It's so yummy.
One of the cool things, we got a new packet printer in the last year or so, and one of the cool things is it allows us to designate who grew the seeds, what farm they're coming from, as we print the packets. So whoever it was, Joseph, getting seeds in Priest River, on the back of that packet might say where those seeds are coming from, which could be Moscow or who knows where, but one of us.
Yeah, that's something we just started doing. So if you have an old seed packet, it's not on there yet, but we're really proud. We got a little packet printer called Raina, and she can print this little machine. We can print, so we print the farm name, the grower, the location of the farm,
and the germ rate,
and the germ rate
at the
on
germ
every packet. Yeah. And as far as that, I can see that question about the Oaxacan, the Olaton corn. Yeah, super cool. And also that is if you want to look up the whole, like a microcosm of what is challenging about the global seed system and ownership over seeds and patents on seeds and breeders' rights and all of that stuff, that corn is like such an amazing case study for that. So no, we do not carry it. There's you my understanding is you can't at this point, like it's not available to the public, which is interesting. But it's a really cool, there's a Yale 360 article that's really, it goes into a bunch of detail and talks about it from a bunch of different stakeholders' perspectives. I highly recommend it. It's really great for understanding some of the issues around this.
We have a few more questions in the chat, and I want to go back to those, but I see that James has joined us in the room, and James Luke was one of our other guests who's a part of Snake River Seed Cooperative. I wanted to make sure and give you a chance to check in with us. James, if you want to just introduce yourself quick and talk a little bit about your role and connection with the cooperative.
Well, I'm embarrassed to be so late, which I thought was the 10-minute early. If you'll see in the chat, I put this in my calendar when I was in California and it repopulated at the wrong time.
Oh, okay. Sorry you didn't make it, but
Uh, hi everyone. I'm James Loomis. I am a grower for Snake River Seed Cooperative. I work for an organization in Salt Lake City called Wasatch Community Gardens. We have a certified organic farm where we produce quite a few varieties for Snake River. And then I also have a small permaculture playground project in southern Idaho where I also steward a number of perennial flowers. So I I love the seeds. I've been there with Casey since the very early days of Snake River, and I have made so many mistakes in a row that I finally feel like I am becoming a diligent seed steward.
nice.
Love it.
Um, well, I was gonna just maybe we can just get a really fast snippet from each of the three of you about I honestly kind of hate when people ask me this question, but if you wanted to just describe one seed crop that you feel a connection with that you're a fan of.
I'm ready if you guys need a minute to
Yeah.
talk.
You start.
Lovage.
Okay, why not? Tell us.
Lovage. I love lovage. I'm gonna make a video about this spring. I've been planning it all year. I've been working up to it. Why I love lovage so much is because it is too much. It is just too the whole entire experience of this plant is too much. Everything about it is too much. It gets way too big. It it gets way too tall. It makes way too many seeds. It smells it tastes, it's like celery, but it's way more intense than celery, like too intense. It's just everything about it is just like ridiculously too much, and I adore that about it. It is just too much of itself, and that's why I love it so much.
Good answer. Kelly.
It's always really hard for me to choose one, but I think so. We hand pollinate squash. Our farm is an acre. It's in the city limits of Moscow, Idaho, and we don't have isolation for everything. And so a lot of the squash crops we grow, we're hand pollinating, and it is such a fun experience to be out there with the bees. And so yeah, maybe Costata Romanesco is probably one of my favorites, and it's mostly because of that interaction with them. Um, I feel like there's certain squashes that do not like hand pollinating. It's interesting to watch them, and they're harder to hand pollinate, and I think they just don't like it. They don't, they reject that. But Costata Romanesco in particular is just like good with it. So I guess that'll be my fave.
And James.
You know, I really enjoy peppers, in particular the class of peppers I refer to as the death peppers, so things that are just stupid hot. And I have one that'll be the first new variety that I've created called Sabi's Revenge. And I think I really I just think these peppers are so beautiful. They seem to really do well in relationship with me and my soils. And then they fight back when it comes time to get the gift of those seeds. And um, boy, sometimes they fight back for days. You know, you get those oils and that capsaicin and I found rubbing my hands with baking soda and, sometimes gloves do a little bit, but yeah, I really enjoy the challenge there, especially at the end. Um,
Nice. That's great. Um, I want to make sure and get to some of these last questions in the chat. Um, let's see. Some of these have replies in the chat, so I want to make sure people read those replies. And also, if anyone has, I'm going to read a couple of questions through, and people could respond in the chat, and then maybe y'all can respond to a few of these other questions. One of them is anyone working with community groups or schools to teach about growing for seeds? Our guests can feel free to comment on that, but other people can weigh in the chat. Let's see, we have a comment from Jan. A common marketplace to small growers would increase exposure. Customers might migrate to buy directly from the small seed company. Just some comments. Question, do you all offer any corn varieties that sequester nitrogen like the one in Oaxaca, Mexico? sequester nitrogen from the air, that is. Is anyone aware of grants for school gardens? That's a recurring question here, so maybe people can respond to that one. Jen Williams in the chat. Hi, Jen. Asking, do you share seed cleaning equipment with your growers? How do you do that, and what do you have? Great question.
Yeah, so yes, we do. We share Winnow Wizard. We have a Winnow Wizard at our headquarters that people can use, but they have to come to us, and yeah, so they have to come to us to use it. But we do share with them. Yeah, and how are you guys? I mean, yeah, you guys can talk about how you do.
We also have a Winnow Wizard on our farm, and are happy to have people come and clean seeds if that's needed, depending on where you are.
Do you have equipment?
What'd you
Sorry,
say?
James can weigh in as well.
Well, I was just going to say that the addition of that Winnow Wizard has been a game changer as a grower for the co-op, because I think as many of you know, winnowing with box fans and, you know, screens and things, it's pretty easy to get a seed like 80 to 90% clean, but then I can spend 5 times as long trying to get that last 10% of the chaff out. And so it's greatly reduced my time to be able to get things cleanish and then show up at the Snake River headquarters and just, you know, really dial it in quickly at the end.
Cool. I was just asking if there's do you have experience with other equipment besides the Winnow Wizard? Feels worth it, not worth it? Any other shared equipment that you really like?
I mean, I want to just give a shout out to the box fan system. We've got lots of videos online about how to use box fans to clean seeds, and they work great. And we used only box fans to clean seeds for, I don't know, 10 years. So yeah, I think it was just like in 2020 when we finally got our Winnow Wizard, or something about that, 2020-ish is when we first got it. So Winnow Wizard is a piece of seed cleaning equipment that was made by a person who worked at Frank Morton's farm, who had an engineering kind of bent to him. And Frank Morton is also one of those people who has cleaned a lot, like 10 acres of seeds with box fans. And this person was like, there has got to be a better way than this. And so he invented that. He created that. And there's open source plans online that are free that you can build your own if you want. And then I don't know. I mean, I have a wish list of things that I would like us to have seed cleaning wise. I would say if you are of a scale where you're thinking about a clipper, because that's kind of the kind of standard thing you would buy. I would highly recommend you go with a Winnow Wizard over a clipper. They're way easier to clean. They work really great. They're super easy to use. They're not as loud. Yeah. And so, especially if you're switching between like certified organic and non-certified organic seed, and you have to do a lot of cleaning to get your equipment clean in that way, definitely would recommend it, the Winnow Wizard for that. And then but like I want us to get a gravity table, because like for little, like yarrow and some of these little seeds, like I saw somebody cleaning seeds on a gravity table over in your neck of the woods, Spencer, at a native seed farm. And it was incredible. And I was like, dang, we need one of those. And then I don't know, Kelly, you've been doing some more stuff with, well, I guess, yeah, have you been doing with have you been investing in anything for wet seeds?
Not really. I mean, just screens and that high pressure nozzle from Johnny's, or Connor Crickmore has one that's for smaller hands that works pretty well for blasting tomato seeds through a screen. But otherwise, yeah, nothing very special besides the Wizard.
DK asks, is the Winnow Wizard worth the price it costs? Do you recommend anything else that makes using the Winnow Wizard easier?
I mean, I think it depends on your scale and how many seeds you're growing. And I mean, we sort of took a step. We got some PPP money during COVID, and we just decided to throw it towards a Wizard. And it's been worth it. But on our 1 acre scale, I think it's marginal to have a Wizard. But boy, they are, big time savers.
If I would add something that makes that Winnow Wizard easier, it's a notebook and copious notes from the users, so that there's a reference for settings that you've used for seeds in the past.
And I would say that same level, if you're, just if you're using box fans, I mean, we like at our scale, we had a lot of box, like we might have like 8 or 10 different box fans. Just because like we might have a bunch of different setups of that happening as different growers are cleaning stuff at the same time. And it does matter like which fans and which, so I use 2 box fans. That's the best way to do it. Next to each other. And like, it matters which one goes in the front, which one goes in the back. And even just taking notes on box fans and from one year to the next. And then the other thing that I think is super interesting is to see the notes from one year to the next, how they change. Like your same seed crop might weigh a different amount. It might be heavier, or it might be smaller, or it might be something from year to year based on the growing conditions. And so it can change. Yeah, you can see differences that way too.
And to be honest, I don't take any notes. We have our own wizard, so it's out there. I don't take any notes. I put a security blanket down, which I call is just like lay a piece of plastic out to catch everything and then just try it. And yeah, because seeds change every year. I don't know. Maybe we're just working with it enough, but I have 0 notes on what I use to clean seeds, and it's more intuitive. I mean, you have like 3 screens that you're tapering air with, and it's not a hugely complex formula of what you're going to use. So,
And
just
what about like storage of finished clean seeds or packets, or any kind of protocol around, keeping finished packets or seed lots clean and dry?
Yeah. Cool, dark, dry. That's the key. Seeds do not like hot. They do not like humid. So keep them in a dry spot, keep them in a dark spot, in a cool spot. If you're talking a small scale, don't put them in your fridge. Like people like to store their seeds in their fridge. I don't think that's the greatest place to store them. But I think just a closet, a closet in your house, or like for us, our seed quarters is, we just don't have a lot of light. We just try not to, we don't have a lot of like bright windows. We have, curtains over the windows that are keeping the lights not super, super bright. And we just try to keep it at a constant temperature. Room temperature is great. And then as far as the packets go, yeah, that's a huge problem for us because I don't know where everybody's from, but Intermountain West is dry. And so like we have, we buy packets that have the resealable flat glue on it. And I've had way too many conversations in my life about flat glue. But flat glue in our area dries out pretty fast. And so it can be difficult. Like if you are looking for packets and you live in a dry area, I recommend you buy the ones that have double-sided tape on the flat, so that so you just peel it off and stick it immediately. Otherwise they'll dry out in our area over a pretty short period of time, and you'll see them opening back up again in the stores that you're selling to.
And I think that I love this formula of, you hear it, it's 100. So humidity plus temperature needs to be less than 100 for seeds in general. So if you're in a really humid area, they need to be cool. And if you're a really dry area, they can be, it just works. It's like, always keep that in mind.
Yeah, I like that.
Nice. I wanted to go back to a little comment and discussion I missed, which how have you established price of seed to pay farmers? You mentioned that farmers have a say in setting prices based on what it costs to grow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we at this point we have a kind of a place where we're working from. So, generally speaking, you might say like, okay, a tomato. So say we had tomatoes price set at like $50 an ounce. Well, if some tomato varieties produce way less seeds than others. And so if you like paste tomatoes or whatever. And so in that case, we've over time worked with the grower to be like, actually I need like $70 an ounce for this to make sense to me. And so, and we'll do, and so what we do on our end is we basically, with very few exceptions, we just say, okay, that's what the grower needs and that's what we need to pay. And then we adjust the amount of the number of seeds in the packet to match what, to kind of make it balance out on the co-ops. Like our squash seed prices are really, really high. Obviously, if you're freaking Kelly and you're out there hand pollinating squash, that is an insane amount of work. That's an insane amount of commitment. And like, so, you know, our squash seed prices are pretty high that we pay to the grower. You know, and then so we put very few seeds in the packet in order to, you know, make that pencil out on our end. And also, unless you're growing on scale, if you're a home gardener, you don't want more than 15 squash seeds or whatever it is anyway. So yeah, that's how we work on it. And it depends. I mean, when a grower starts with a new crop, and we kind of just try to see if there's anything that's similar to what, you know, like, is there anything else we can draw from in terms of similar size, similar kind of workload, similar quantity kind of a thing. And then we negotiate with the grower from there. And like, sometimes we'll say, like, the grower gets a choice of whether, if they can decide whether they want to set the price in the beginning of the season or at the end of the season, and just kind of see how it goes. And then we just work together to make sure it works for both of us.
Nice.
And 100% of the time, the co-op has been higher than Siskiyou and Fedco. The co-op pays really well for seeds.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm really proud of that fact because, you know, we're in Idaho. Idaho is generally not a place where, you know, and I mean, not all of us are in Idaho, but like, you know, many of us, we're centered in Idaho anyway. You know, and Idahoans we're cheap. We don't like to spend money on things. And so I feel really proud that Idaho is setting the standard for grower pricing nationwide. And I love that our growers can go to other seed companies and say, oh, really? Well, Snake River Seed Co-op pays me this amount. That makes me really proud.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it feels like a lot of times the price is arbitrary elsewhere, so we should all be setting the price, you know?
Yeah, that's farming, right?
Yeah.
The price is set for you. You don't get you're a price taker. You're not a price setter, and that is ridiculous.
Totally. Camila asks, how long do you save the seeds?
Like, how long can they store, or how long? So
yeah, she's meaning just like maybe how long you hold on to them and we'll keep selling them before growing a new lot.
So we test every single seed that every lot we test every year, and we'll hold them over it depends on the crop. But like, this is something that we've really this is what is different about running this business versus running a more typical, I mean, any other business. And then even within the seed industry, what we're trying to do is pretty rare because we don't have multiple suppliers from everywhere, right? We are working with these specific growers. And so we try to keep 3 years of seed on hand of a variety, like what we expect to sell. And then every year that we hold that seed, we germ test it. And so if it starts, you know, if at any point in that process it doesn't pass germ, we don't sell it anymore. But we try to keep our seeds moving about every 3 years through the co-op. That said, just different varieties, different circumstances. COVID, of course, like, just absolutely annihilated seed companies all over the place. And so, like, we were wiped completely out of seeds in 2020. And so 2021, we were like, growers, grow everything, we'll buy everything. And then, of course, we like buy in all this seed. And then everybody, like, you know, 2022 was like, oh, well, the pandemic's over. I want to go on vacation. Gardening's hard. And then everybody, like, this is true nationally, like, seed sales just slumped after that. And so then we were sitting on a bunch of like seeds that we couldn't sell. And so we haven't been able to buy in as much as we wanted from growers. So it's kind of complicated, but as a general rule, we try to keep 3 years on hand. And then we just germ test every year that we keep selling them. But if you are saving seeds for yourself, and you're just like, you should know that, like, you can save seeds for 10 years. You know, you can keep seeds for 10 years and have them be just great. Kelly, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Yeah, no. On that note, there are like federal minimum germ rates that are, you know, some mandated but not enforced by anybody. But we try to set ours higher than that. And so a lot of this, you know, we looked at each variety and we're like, well, what can we do? And tried to set them higher than those federal minimums. And a lot of those Ferry Morris seeds are, you know, I don't know. So many times you hear people say that they're, you know, their seeds didn't work. And you're like, I don't know how they're doing that. I know how they're doing it at the co-op, which is testing every lot every year.
Can I add something for maybe some of our folks who are listening who are aspiring or new seed growers around germination rates? Is something that I found is to really make sure you are producing a substantially adequate volume of seeds
Mhm.
so that you can just winnow aggressively and you're not worried about losing those seeds. And I've found, in my early days, man, hitting those germination rates was sometimes really tough. And I thought about plant nutrition and I tried to focus on all these things and plant nutrition is important, growing successful plants is important, but really growing a lot of seed to meet that contract, aggressively winnowing. Um, Boy, Casey, when I got my germination numbers back from our seeds this year, I mean, we are like high 90s on almost everything. On seeds that have, 60% and 70% federal requirements. And I think as a grower, that now provides value to who I'm selling my seeds to because that company knows, if we're losing a little bit of germination percentage each year that a seed is stored, if we're already starting way up here, then we can be confident, I can be confident Snake River is going to hit those germ rates for all the years they need to. So,
Yeah.
Something that has been interesting to work with the co-op on too is that when we first started, we had no idea we'd get a contract to grow a pound of lettuce seed. We had no idea, like beyond the minimum population, how many plants it would take to do that. So we've been accumulating data. So a new grower can go in and say, oh, so 200 plants likely will produce this much. And that's been really helpful because that information isn't really out there.
Nice. Yes, that's great. I mean, I appreciate James' comment about being able to aggressively winnow, and it sort of reminds me of the tip I've been thinking about, which is also just when you are able to kind of aggressively plant out as well. Like we've been having more success because we've had more seed to be able to plant more plants and have more of a population to rogue out or, cull out any of the weaker plants. And that's really been making a big difference for things like melons and watermelons is just we start from a happier, healthier population. So yeah, like having more than you think you're going to need and keeping the best ones is a recurring theme, I think. Okay, we're gonna start wrapping up here, I think, because I believe we're going an hour and a half. And if anyone has any final questions or questions that I didn't get out and ask, you can repeat them in the chat. But I'm gonna sort of conclude it with asking each of the three of you to give one piece. I think James already started it off with that little tip, but if each of you have one piece of advice you would give to aspiring seed farmers, I think that would be a great sort of ending point.
I think my advice is just bravery. Just do it. Because it's not, I mean, plants have been doing this forever. Humans have been interacting with these processes forever. And yeah, we don't have the information. We've sort of abdicated it off away from us and we're intimidated by it. But just watch something finish, watch something go to seed and check it out. It's a beautiful, amazing process. And just, yeah, don't be intimidated.
oh, my piece of advice would be around cleaning seed and to not be afraid to get creative. There's not certain steps you have to follow. It's like getting to know a new friend. I mean, I struggled with onions one year because I couldn't get the last bit of white chaff out of these black seeds. And I like threw them in a bucket of water and all the chaff floated, all the seeds sunk, and then I hurried and strained them and I hurried and put them under fans and I dried them out really quick and it was a successful, super clean crop. And I just, you know, get creative.
Amazing. So
I think my advice would be like, I guess it's something like just do it with love. Like this is one of the most special parts of being alive, is being able to interact in these ecosystems with these little beings that are so different than us and watch the ways that they're interacting with the world. And like they have given me such a source of delight and wonder and joy and fascination, and just, it's like, I don't think it's possible to spend time in the company of seeds and not just feel really lucky to be alive. And I feel like we can really use that right now. So I guess go forth with love, my friends. That's my advice.
That is wonderful. That's a great ending point, I think. And yeah, I mean, so well said. I don't need to reiterate, but that's why so many of the seed growers that I've met are such wonderful people. It's real magic, and we're all privileged to be working with the seed. So, do it with joy, because it is a truly joyful, magical process. Okay, well, I think we're going to leave it there. And I wanted to thank again our guests for being here. Casey, Kelly, and James, thank you so much for being here. Thanks to Julia and Going to Seed for organizing this conversation. And everyone, feel free to share the link once we have it for the YouTube, and we can watch back and spread the message. So thanks to everyone for coming by.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.